I'm technically breaking the rules a little bit. This wasn't exactly in the dollar bin at the dollar store, but this was in a dollar bin somewhere else. Eragon was a book series initially. I've got one of them right here, even. This is the second one, eldest. I have all 4 of them, but I don't feel like going to look for the other 3 currently. But to give you an example of just how much content is in this, the first book has about just as much length as this book. Look at the girth. Look at all of this content. The first book is just as thick as this one, right? Christopher Paolini, I hope I'm saying your name right. This man was one of my inspirations. This man is an incredible writer, an incredible author, and he definitely was inspired by Lord of the Rings. I could tell that he was inspired at least somewhat by Lord of the Rings, and so am I, okay? But it's like a chain of inspirations here. I was inspired by this man. You know, that he wrote the first book and used the royalties to get him through college. It's incredible. He was extremely lucky and got his stuff out, and it deserved to get out. It was incredible. It's really good. Let me see. The publishing house that he went with, I believe, is called Laurel Leaf. I believe that's the first, and is still the same publishing house that he went through to get these things out here. The third book released in 2008, and then the fourth one released a couple years later, I believe in the 2010s. It took a while for the fourth one to come out. I remember reading the first 2 books multiple times. Loved them. And then when Brissinger came out, I reread the first 2 books and then read Brissinger. And then when the 4th book came out, I reread the first 3 books and then read the 4th book. They were just so easy to consume. And like I did with my books in the back here, let's see where I can find it. Like I did with my books in the back, he had a little appendix here. Pronunciation guide, glossary. You can look through here and you can see all this crap, all that stuff. Utilizing those cuts so you know how previously the book was back here, and then when suddenly split second it's facing forward. You know, I'm utilizing those cuts now. I had to get caught. I had stuff to do. Cut, you know. Like that. Now they're flipped over. And now they're not. Just get used to the cuts. I might be using them more often, just for fun. I don't want to spend way too much time gushing about these books, though. But I could spend a whole video gushing about these books. This man was an inspiration to me, okay? Read through these books. I read through the Forgotten Realm books. I read through the Maleficent Book of the Fallen books. I read through Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, all that stuff. Those were the type of epic high fantasy that got me into wanting to be a writer, be an author. I wanted to do what this man did, right? But, you know, I'm just the indie guy. He got lucky, got all over the place, and he is well-deserved, of course. He's well-deserved. But the reason why I brought the book out is I wanted to see the film do just as well as the book did. And did it? Did the film do the book justice? No. No, it didn't. It did not satisfy on many levels. Many levels. A lot of the characters performed very poorly. A lot of the characters weren't even in this. This film was like putting a VHS tape into your VHS player and pressing fast forward and watching it just fly by at 10 times the speed, just to make a runtime of 103 minutes. 103 minutes! No! This film deserved to be at least 200 minutes. This is a film that is based off an epic. Do you think you could condense this? For context, that's how long it is. Longer than almost as long as my thumb. Can you condense that into 100 minutes? And actually make it good? Probably not. There's a fair bit of stuff in here. How many pages? 1,000 pages. 1,000 pages. 1,000 pages of content. The first book had 1,000 pages of content. And then you smushed it into 100 minutes. You see this character here? This is Murtagh. Murtagh was basically in the second half of the Eragon first novel. He was in the second half, a major character. He went through quite a bit of bonding with Eragon after Brom died. And there was a fair bit of stuff that you got to learn with him. The friendship was growing. And then when Eragon finally made it to the Varden, to High Hrothgar, to Varden-dur, to King Hrothgar's place, by the time he made it there to the Varden, he had become friends with this person. He was a party member in full force. Well, Murtagh joins in the final 20 or so minutes of the film. He has a very brief scene in where Eragon rescues Arya, and then Brom dies, and then he runs into Murtagh again, and then we just skip ahead to when Eragon arrives at the Varden, and then he gets locked up. The final battle shows up. He breaks out. He kills some bad guys. They say that they're even now, and then the film's over. There's nothing in here for this man. He has nothing here. And then this man, John Malkovich. I love the actor. He's great in so many things. But he was phoning it in so hard in this movie. He was phoning it in so bad, so much. Oh gosh, I can't even begin to describe to you how much he was phoning it in. His vocal inflections are so flat. There was no emoting to his actions. He was just very there. He was just there. Now, the greatest character in this film is by far Brom, because it's Jeremy Irons. Jeremy Irons knows how to make the best out of what he's got. He was in the Dungeons and Dragons movie, for crying out loud. This man knows what to do with what very little he was given. This was his next Dungeons and Dragons film. Dungeons and Dragons is an incredible, deep, large, big thing, and the film was a disaster. It was a disaster. But if you've watched it, you probably remember Jeremy Irons in it, hamming it up. Jeremy Irons is back in Eragon. Another disaster of a film that deserved to be incredible. It deserved to be like at least just below the level of the Lord of the Rings. This was to be that next series. Jeremy Irons was great. He was serviceable. He was not even there. She was barely there. He was terrible. Love John Malkovich, but he was terrible here, in my opinion. She was fine, but their bond wasn't really that strong here. Like, the book shows you a much greater bond between them. They have a lot more time to spend with the characters and building character. That's something this film lacked, and it really lacked it really hard, was the building of character. Outside of Jeremy Irons, we don't really build any character with anyone. Except for maybe Eragon, but then, he's the main character. He's in it for the whole film, so maybe in 100 minutes you could do something with the character. Jeremy Irons, he was in it for like 80 of those 100 minutes. So he's had plenty of time to grow. He was in it for like 2 to 3 minutes. He was in it for like 10 minutes of the 20 minutes of the final runtime, maybe even less. She was in it for about as much as him, because, she was unconscious for most of the film in a captured state or in a sickly state. So it was mainly just Eragon and Brom, with sometimes Saphira. I remember all these characters' names, right? Because I loved the book so much. I knew these characters, man. I've read the book so... I'll be ranting about the Varden in a minute here. Maybe in a hot minute. In a many minutes. Let me try to do the story first. This was like the VHS of whooshing through everything. Every scene, every major scene of the book is in here. But they just go to boom, 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 boom. They just go from every major scene without giving any of the characters time to rest and build character and talk to each other. There's barely any time to do anything with this story. This is a massive novel, and they threw it into 100 minutes. Do you know what 100 minutes is? That is about maybe 2 episodes of a Game of Thrones series, okay? 2 episodes, not even 3, okay? There may be 2 episodes about 40-45 minutes, so you might be about 10-20 minutes extra. So I guess you'd have a little bit of a 3rd episode, but two Game of Thrones episodes is not enough to tell a story of a book with almost as many pages as a Game of Thrones novel. It's just not enough time. You needed to give this film, at the very least, 2 hours. I would prefer 2.5 hours, or even 200 minutes. This was supposed to be an epic-length film. When you have a film that's 100 minutes, you have to cut a lot of stuff out. All of the times when everybody slows down, you build character. Eragon builds his relationship with Saphira. He talks to Murtagh and grows with Murtagh. The scenes where Eragon and Arya do their stuff. A lot of that is cut out. The Varden is so carved away that all we see are the human factions, the human people who are in the Varden. The Varden have basically allied with the dwarves. Let me pull this book out and show you. I'm going to be using the map, because, this book is a map. Love it. Love it. Absolutely love this series. Alright? So we go down through the Bjord Mountains, all the way down into here. We go from here, following the river, down into here, and the Varden are located somewhere in there. They're located in the mountains, in a place called Farthendur. It is basically this world's version of Helm's Deep. Okay? It was built by the dwarves do live there, and the Varden have basically taken up refuge with the dwarves. It's a hidden location. The King Galbatorix, he does not know where it is, and he wants to find it so that he can send his army there. Well, when Eragon and Murtagh are on the run, having rescued Arya from... It's hard for me to read this when it's upside down. It's right side up for you, but it's upside down for me. Let me find out where Gilead was again. Here we go. So, around the 80-minute mark, right? Around the 80-minute mark, Eragon and company made it to Gilead, okay? Now, Eragon's original hometown is somewhere on the other side of the spine, up in here, I believe. Somewhere in here. I don't know exactly where, but he's really, really not close to the Varden at all. So the bulk of the film took place of going from this region to Gilead, okay? Just a little bit from here to here. That's not that far. It's not that far at all. But then here's Gilead, right? This is with the 80-minute mark. They go all the way down here. And the bulk of like 10 to 15 minutes of from the last bit of the film is already spent at the Varden. So all that world hopping, they just flip a scene and they're already there. There were, at the very least, 50 to 100 pages of Eragon's journey, going from Gilheed to the Varden. Getting to the Varden was a big part of finding them. That was the whole deal. They were very difficult to locate. How the heck would Eragon know where to go? Murtagh says he knows the mountains, and he's a good guide. He helps guide them through across all these years to go through here to find Farthendur, right? It's way over here, from here to here, way, big gap, right? But I wish we saw some of that world hopping. I wish we saw the dwarves in Farthendur. I wish we saw more of the Varden. Everybody's character after Brom dies has been butchered and carved away. It's like they realized they ran out of money at Brom's death with Jeremy Irons' death, and they thought, oh, we have nobody of good character status, good actor status to carry this film, and we have no money left, and there's so much story left. Let's just skip right to the Varden. We don't have time to find dwarves. We don't have time for any of that. Let's just show them some of the Varden. Here's some of the characters. Here's Nasueda. She has maybe 1 minute of dialogue, and we just whoosh through. We just whoosh through. It's just... read the book. Read these books. They're fantastic. They're fantastic. This... When I first heard of this movie, when I first heard of it, I was so excited. I was dying to get my hands on it. But then my friends that I talk to are also big nerds like me. They told me not to do it. They told me not to watch it. They told me not to get it. It will disappoint you. Now, I'm a big fan of the whole B-movie shtick, okay? I'm a big fan of bad movies. If you could say, I have a whole collection of Hammer horror films here. From going from Frankenstein all the way to who the heck knows of Yesterday's Enemy. You know, I have all of that, right? I like this stuff. I dig it. But there's a difference between a movie that's low budget, that does the best it can, and this. This had a budget of 100 million. And while it did make its money back, it made about 250 million in the box office, the critical reception destroyed any hope for a sequel, and for good reason. And for good reason. You wanna know why? Because this isn't even Eragon. If you watched this movie, and then read the book, Eragon, you would see that the movie does get all of the major things. It covers all of its bases. It does all of those things. But it does it in rapid fire. It doesn't take its time. It rushes from scene to scene to scene to scene to scene, pushing you through it, not building any character. And many characters, particularly one of the biggest characters of this franchise, Murtagh, gets thrown to the wayside because there's just no time to develop them. If you want to watch this movie, I recommend it, at least for Jeremy Irons' sake. He's fantastic at this movie. I loved every second that he was on screen. He's fine. He's perfect. He's amazing in this. Eragon is okay. He's okay. Murtagh, for like the 5 to 10 minutes you see him on screen, is okay. Saphira is voiced by Rachel Weisz, and she's good. She's very good. I just wish there was more of her, because she just feels like a vehicle for Eragon. And I get it, the whole Dragon Rider thing, but Saphira was supposed to have her own character, a big, deep level of character. They would get into fights, they would disagree on a lot of things, but they had to work together. They could get past it, to be a team, to be one mind in order to defeat the enemies. And it's just disappointing. That's what this movie is. It's disappointing. The dollar, I don't want to say it beat me, because I watched it just for Jeremy. I would watch it again just for Jeremy Irons. He's good. He is at least worth the dollar. If you find this in a dollar bin somewhere, it's worth the dollar. It's not worth like $20. It's not worth $10. It's worth a dollar, a single dollar. Or maybe if you have it for free on streaming, that's even better. I mainly recommend this time that you get the books. At least the first 4. Eragon, Eldest, Brissinger, and... gosh, I forgot what the 4th book's name is. I think it's Inheritance. I think the 4th book's name is Inheritance. Yes, it is named Inheritance. We go from Eragon to Eldest to Brissinger to Inheritance. This covers all the major bases, but I can't. It disappointed me so much, but you know what this thing succeeded in doing, though? It made me want to read the book again. I think I'm gonna do that. I suggest you do that, too. It's far more imaginative.